Purpose-Driven Progress, PDP as I like to call it. I am your host, JK, and today I've got a question for you. How close to perfect do we really need to get? How close to perfect do we really need to get? Today is all about perfectionism, so let's get into it. Now, this is a topic that's pretty near and dear to my heart because I consider myself a recovering perfectionist, and I feel like we are always and forever in recovery when it comes to perfectionism. Because, I mean, there's been times in my life when, gosh, if I knew or if I felt I couldn't do something perfectly, then I didn't really even want to do it at all. Like if I couldn't do it perfectly, then why even bother doing it at all? So I remember there was a time in, I want to say third or fourth grade, when I had forgotten to do an assignment that was due that day. Now, gosh, I can't remember, a math assignment or English maybe, I don't remember. But I remember I was just so upset about it. It was like first thing in the morning, I didn't feel like there was time to scramble to get it done quickly. And I was just beside myself. I was just so upset about it because I had missed something. I wasn't perfect. I didn't get it done. Now, this kind of ties into some of like my social media stuff that I've done. And one video that I affectionately call like my mission video, because it really kind of tells you why I do like a podcast like this. I do really anything and everything that I do. The short and long of it is that essentially I just want to help one more person every single day. Help one more person. Now, I remember this being, it was a cold day in like the middle of December, if I remember right. So I just gotten back into the house from taking my dog Harley out, and my fingers were like a little numb. Like, you know, that feeling when like just like the very tips are starting to go numb a little bit. It's still pretty cold out. And for this particular video, I'd written some stuff down. Like, I really try not to do like a full script anymore if I can help it, just because I don't feel like it's as natural and my authentic self really comes out the way I would like. So I usually just do some talking points here and there, just kind of jog my memory and keep me on track and get me to where I want to go. And I remember just like this anxious feeling of like, I just had to get this video out, because it was like, if I didn't, then I wasn't perfect. I wasn't going to get everything that I wanted to get done, right? And in this video, I tell the story of Desmond Doss. Now, I've told Desmond Doss's story in much more detail in other podcasts, so feel free to check those episodes out. But it's a story that really means a really, really great deal to me, and it's something that's led me to my purpose in some small way, where, again, I just want to help one more person. Please, Lord, let me just help one more. So I put the video together, I released it, I put it out. I wasn't really sure about like the music that I had chosen. It was longer than a lot of my other videos, so I was like, I don't know about that. I wasn't really sure if the subtitles were any good, like the colors I had chosen, like that kind of stuff. Now, normally on a given working day, I do my best to limit social media, just because I don't know about you guys, but I can be easily distracted sometimes. And if I watch one funny video, that means I'm probably going to watch 10, which probably means I'm going to watch 100, right? So I just follow down these rabbit holes. It distracts me too much. So I've got some apps and stuff on my website that I use to limit this distraction. But I do try like throughout the day just to like check in on it on social media, just to make sure that if somebody had commented or if I got messages, I can respond to those in a pretty prompt way. And something pretty strange was happening with this video. This video blew my averages out of the water. And it just kept climbing, kept like day after day, it kept going and going and going. And I got more and more views and more likes and more comments. And it was almost like, it felt like if you'd bought like a penny stock, like something that's maybe not necessarily, worth a ton, but it's yours, right? And you watch it just kind of tick up and creep up and creep up and creep up and up and up and up and up and up. And that's the giddy feeling that I felt when I was watching this video go up. And after several days, said now, that video has, several thousand views. It's got dozens of likes and dozens of comments. And because I had ignored my typical way of doing things of, waiting until it's absolutely perfect, or I feel like it's perfect to put something out. I just went for it. It actually did well. And this is where our strategy comes in. And in combating perfectionism is all about our mindset. Now, the first point I want to give you guys is it can be one that can be easy to understand intellectually, but I think sometimes it can be really easy to forget. And that failure is our greatest teacher. Failure is our greatest teacher, meaning that we often will learn more from when things go wrong or go wrong in our minds than when they actually go right. So failure is our greatest teacher. So let when things go wrong teach you how to do things better. Something that's really worked great for me is creating a checklist. Meaning that if I'm writing like a post, for example, on social media, I will assign all the tasks together. Meaning that if I'm writing a video, I'll put together my talking points or what my point is for the video. I'll get it recorded. I will get it edited so the weird gaps in the beginning or the end are cut out. I will add music. I will add my subtitles. I will create my social copy, meaning the stuff that you're actually reading on there. And usually I will assign a certain amount of time because, as I've mentioned several times before, according to Parkinson's law, whatever time we allow it to a specific task is the amount of time that it'll take. So if I give myself, 15 minutes to write my social copy, then that's how long it'll take, and I'll get it done and I'll get it out. So the third thing I want to mention to you guys is that perfect is the enemy of good enough. Meaning that even if something is good that you've written like a memo for work or whatever the case might be, if it's 70% of the way there or 80% of the way there, usually that is more than enough. But because we are pushing and striving for that last 10, 15, 20%, we feel like we'll actually get it done, actually get it perfect. We will delay things and not actually get things out in a timely manner, even though they were good enough at 80%. The next thing is kind of a big one, and that is practice self-compassion. Be kind to yourself. So I often think about it as giving people grace, where it's like, oh, that person, maybe that person, treated me badly or said that thing or flipped me the bird in traffic because they're having a crappy day. I can usually, or I like to think usually I can give people that kind of grace, but very rarely do I give it to myself. So find ways to practice self-compassion, be kind to yourself. A great way that I've done to get better at being nice to myself is journaling. Is saying, hey, what are the things that really, really, really went well today? Obviously, there's always kind of things in my mind like, oh man, I didn't get this done, or I wish I'd done this better, or whatever the case might be. But what are the things that went really, really well today? Write those things down and be proud of yourself for them. The next one, which I've, again, talked about at length in other podcasts, is experiment without attachment. Meaning that try different things out, and if they go right or if they go wrong in your mind, that isn't a reflection of you. It merely means that you're in a learning stage. We're just trying some things out to see what works well and what works the best for us. And try to get some perspective from a friend. Like, let's say you are writing that memo or that email to a new potential client. And you got it all written out, and you're thinking about it, you're just agonizing over it. So ask one of your friends, like, hey man, can you just read through this really quick and see, is this good to go? And sometimes, if they're a good friend, they'll tell you like, hey, I think we need to tweak this here and there, but yeah, go ahead and send it. Most of the time it's good enough. And when it comes to all of this, when it comes to perfectionism, I strongly recommend doing a review. Meaning if you're going to implement some of these things we've talked about today, then set aside, 5-10 minutes weekly or every other week at the very least to review how things are going. Because that'll be a great way, especially if you're experimenting with some stuff, do that review and that'll tell you where you need to go and what things might need to change. Because perfectionism isn't something that will change overnight. It takes some work. It takes some time. But again, give yourself that grace and allow yourself to take the time to work on it. And this reminds me of an author, kind of a smaller author. I'm not sure if you guys would have heard of her, JK Rowling. Maybe a few of you have heard of her. She wrote a small series. I think it's called something like Harry Potter. I don't know. Maybe you've heard of it. But when she was getting started, she was a single mom. She was just trying to make ends meet. And a lot of times she was, scribbling this story that has impacted so many in a small cafe in a notebook. And, her child slept beside her often. And being in Scotland, I always imagine it as like chilly, cold. Maybe it was raining. And I feel like being in cafes I feel like always kind of smell the same. It's where you've got like your fresh baked pastries, like donuts and bread and things. And then that coffee smell and the hundreds of coffees, different kinds of coffee there are now. For those who don't know, quick sidebar, I don't drink coffee at all. Never have. I know, I'm a weirdo. But imagine for a second, like put yourself in her place where you're sitting in this cafe, you're writing the story that you think is good, that you think is worthwhile. But imagine the weight of that. It's like trying to make ends meet. And like this is the way that you've chosen to provide for your child. I mean, how hard do you think that would have been for her? And for many of you listening to me, maybe you don't need to imagine that weight all that much. But she must have felt like some self-doubt with every word. I mean, who would publish her? Why would they publish her? There's hundreds of great authors out there. Why would they publish her over anybody else? And she must have had, dozens and dozens of pages of her handwritten notes and edits and revisions. And she'd be flipping through as I would think that her baby would probably be, stirring or crying because of the hum of the conversation around them both. Imagine pouring your heart into something like Harry Potter, something huge like that. But she got rejected over and over and over again. 12 times she was rejected. And I have to imagine that those publishers that passed on Harry Potter are probably kicking themselves to this day. But after all those rejections, I would think that they probably start to have an emotional impact. Maybe she would cry sometimes. I would think that for me, after 5, 6, 7, 8 rejections, like, no, I don't think I want to publish your book. That would start to weigh on you. Start to think like, am I even doing the right things here? Should I just give this up and go find some regular job? Because how many times do you think she reworked and revised Harry Potter? A bunch, I would have to think, over and again, especially after all those rejections. But finally, a publisher in the UK gave her a shot. And imagine that moment. Maybe she got a letter in the mail saying like, hey, we would love to publish your book. We think this is fantastic. It must have been just so much relief that she finally got her chance. And then imagine you're a young, new author, get your first book published, and then it blows up the way that Harry Potter does. So I remember, oh my gosh, I want to say that, the first book came out in the mid 90s. And I remember my mom reading the first book to me as a little kid in bed. And I remember begging her for another chapter. Like, Mom, please, like, just give me one more chapter. It still holds a special place in my heart. And for any interested, I am a Hufflepuff, if you're wondering. But this just goes to show you how not allowing perfection to stand in the way can get you to incredible, incredible places. So apply some of these things. Ask yourself, how can I apply what Jacob said today to my life? What are you going to try? What are you going to implement? As always, thank you so much for listening. Be sure to subscribe for more strategies just like this one. So I really appreciate you guys tuning in. It really means a ton to me. So I'll see you guys next time.